Come with me.
So, you must be very joyful today. Yeah, Inspector.
Reasonably content, Mrs. Lutz, but joyful? What cause am I to be joyful?
Aaron Clemens will be hanged tomorrow.
Take little pleasure in his death.
Oh, lieber Gott, what a man you are. You practiced criminal for 6 months with telegrams and pins on the atlas. Telegram pin, till the pins are all across Canada, across half America. And now when your labor will be rewarded, you are fussing with your reports like you will be hanged.
6 long months. His was the finest flight I've seen. To trace it step by step, and then in the end to tangle with the notorious Mr. Clemens and capture him is reward enough for me, Mrs. Lutz. As I said before, I take little pleasure in his death. What is that telegram?
Oh, the newspaper says that no prison can hold him, so perhaps he will escape. And then you will have the great pleasure to play with the pins for another 6 months.
And the 6 months I spent to catch him were nothing. He was first sentenced to hang 8 years ago. He escaped the noose. And since then has crisscrossed the continent, leaving behind a trail of clever thefts and swindles and disgraced jail governors who couldn't hold him. That's why he's being held at the Don jail under special arrangements.
What special arrangements?
Well, Clemens is such a consummately skillful confidence man. Intelligence is needed to understand his schemes. They're so involved. His victims have to be bright. I have therefore suggested that to be guarded only by ignorant farm lads. Oh, found it.
He makes all this trouble and still you are sorry that he will hang.
No, the law says he must hang, and hang he will. Still, there are few people in this world today who truly excel in their endeavors.
You, Inspector, you are one.
And Clemens is another. When he hangs in the morning, a legend dies with him. By the way, Mrs. Lutz, I shall be expecting a visit of the chest this evening.
Mr. Inglis.
Yes.
Is there too much spring left in it, Mr. Inglis?
Vintage.
Waited and hung for 2 years and 3 months, sir.
No, you don't want spring. You don't want the famous Mr. Clemens bouncing up and down. You want to do a proper job on him.
It will do.
Aye, drop him proper. He's mocked the scalpel long enough.
Hush, old Albert.
Hush. Don't be telling me, young Albert, that hanging Clemens ain't something special for you.
Each time I'm called upon to carry out the ultimate sentence, each time it's something special. Clemens or any other.
To drop the famous Aaron Clemens. We'd stretch him proper, eh, Jack Ketch?
The leather was worn on the leg strap, sir, and I replaced it. Yes. Mr. Tuck failed to cinch it properly, and the client became fretful. That's very good.
Are you saying that this Mr. Tuck is a bungler?
He knows the details of the calling, but struggles with its spirit. He cannot view it as a judicial task.
Heart. He lacks heart.
Yes, he lacks heart. He thinks himself the poet.
Maybe there be an unlikeness in tune between the poetry he scribbles and the song of the hemp.
The sheriff hired Mr. Tuck. For good or bad, he's my assistant in this county.
Need a true apprentice, not a hireling. How Jonas there? I wager he'd whistle the song of the hemp true enough.
Old Albert, we have spoken of this before, and you know it cannot be. My true apprentice was taken from me 8 years ago, and that's the end of that. I'm off.
He's off, Jack Ketch. Off to interview the famous client as to height, weight, size of neck.
Look after him.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. English, sir.
The hangman should be looking in soon. Is this your first death watch, lad?
Yes, sir.
It's curious. Every death cell I've ever bunked in had a floor like this, marked by hundreds of cigarettes, burns, and polished to a shine. You know why they use wood and not cement, which would not mark from burns? Because it's easier to drag a man on this, and it won't skin his knees. Skinned knees would shake too much on the scaffold and be unseemly. My mark. There's a tradition attached to these marks. Immediately after the condemned man is hanged, his ghost returns to the death cell. Here. And it counts the number of cigarette burns made during the 24 hours of his death watch. If he has made more than any other condemned man before him, it signifies that his waiting was the hardest. To avenge it, his ghost murders the death watch guard in any way it chooses. Just a silly tale, of course. Who'll believe it? You're a country lad? Tell me, what do these burns remind you of? I've always thought they look like leeches. You've seen them in the country? Black, blood-sucking leeches burrowing into the flesh. Where is the hangman? Another mark. Mine. Don't be frightened, lad. It's common for a guard on death watch to be nervous. You watch over a man who is about to die, and you realize that you too will die. But unlike me, you don't know when or how you'll die. Hangman comes. I'll call you. Well, go on. Surprised I'm still here?
No, but most everyone else is.
The jail governor surrounds me with brutish plowboys who lack the wit or the ambition to better themselves.
I think it's a good strategy.
His or yours? Brute, ignorant force? Does that triumph in the end, Cameron?
In the commission of a crime, it often does.
No chance of a reprieve.
Normally, a sentence which is 8 years old would be sufficient to qualify. But everyone knows to grant you a reprieve would be like opening the gates and setting you free. You're a victim of your own successes.
Is there anything I can do for you?
Aye, laddie. Do not sleep with me tonight. How you snore, Cameron. The greatest torture I've yet endured was sleeping handcuffed to you in the Pullman when you brought me back. And I don't wonder you're a bachelor.
It's a trick I invented to keep the prisoner sleepless. That way he's too tired to escape.
You invented it. You stole it.
Stole it from whom?
From a profession much older than your own. If you snore tonight, I will not be able to work tomorrow. And you must pay the full rate for all the day, yeah? Sweet Renata, my favorite girl in town. I never sleep a wink until the second night, and then I snore. She has a special snoring.
What profession is that?
Show yourself, hangman.
No.
Face me, I say.
English is the good man.
English? Is it shame that makes you skulk behind a Judas hole, Mr. Inglis? I have heard of your work, Mr. Inglis.
And I have yours, Mr. Clemens.
It's said you're a master of the long drop, Mr. Inglis.
I've had no complaints.
Unlike another, Mr. Inglis.
I'll give you no cause for complaint, Mr. Clemens.
God! I'll be here to see you off. Sorry about that, Mr. Inglis.
He's a brave man, but pride goeth before a fall. Now, Mr. Tuck, a drop of 8 feet, 6 inches, if you please, Mr. Tuck.
Well, see you for chess this evening, huh?
As always, Inspector.
Come.
I would like to go to bed now, since your visitor did not come.
Go ahead, Mrs. Lutz.
Excuse me, Inspector. I do not trust this Mr. Inglis. He is a big mystery for me. He says he is a traveling salesman, but he never tells the funny jokes. And his hands strong like a working man's, but not his clothes or his face.
Mr. Inglis isn't here, sir.
What? You're a prisoner, sir.
I believe it's the custom, sir.
Tighter.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Sheriff, it's your responsibility. For God's sakes, man.
The 8 o'clock death bell. The execution is postponed. Prisoners return to your custody now, Governor.
The master missed his engagement?
Did you see him this morning? Come, man, I must get to the bottom of this.
He was gone when I got up, sir.
What time would that have been?
5. Always 5 on the morning of an engagement, sir. The master likes a special breakfast.
So you prepared and said his breakfast, then you went to wake him when he was gone.
His bed was empty. I was surprised. Then I recall the fame of the current client, Mr. Clemens.
What difference would that make?
Sir, at times a famous client draws an unruly mob to the prison gates and it tries to interfere with the master's entry. In such cases, he enters the prison much earlier, before dawn. It is uncommon, but happens, and I was not alarmed by his absence. And then I saw this, sir.
Yes, what is it?
It's the master's business coat, sir. I've never known him to attend an engagement without it, sir. If I may, sir, did Mr. Tuck perform adequately?
He couldn't do it.
Oh, master said Mr. Tuck had not the heart for it.
He knew he couldn't do it?
He feared it. Oh, it's a shameful business.
When did you last see Mr. Inglis?
Yesterday afternoon, sir, when he went to view the client.
Did he take anything special with him?
The valise with the equipment, as usual. He leaves it at the prison, and he must have come home to dress for dinner. His dinner coat is gone, sir.
You weren't here?
No, sir.
Was there anyone else in the house who could have seen him then?
No, no one, sir. If I may, sir, the night before an engagement, the master always has a rendezvous.
What?
A rendezvous, sir. I would not mention it under other circumstances, though the master is very private and mysterious about it. But if you could ascertain the facts, sir.
Perhaps he plays chess.
Perhaps. That is the galloping gallows, sir.
Galloping gallows?
Dismantles and is portable to prisons that have not their own. The master conceived and built it himself.
Most ingenious man, your master.
He is the best in his calling, sir. Just old Billy, sir. For practice. Italian hemp, sir. Beaten and hackled until it's soft and tender, then waited and hung for 2 years and more to take the spring out.
Spring?
Spring causes bounce and mutilates the client.
Why? There's more to it than I thought.
The safety pin was not properly engaged. It could have been a nasty fall.
Not as nasty as for some, eh? You failed in your duty as a public hangman. Why?
It was a personal matter.
A personal matter? You don't consider a man's death a personal matter to him? An intensely personal matter which it is your duty to respect?
I need no lecture on my duty, Inspector. I am responsible for the highest sentence our courts can pass, and I consider my duty to be a sacred trust.
Then your failure to do that duty was a gross dereliction of that trust, Mr. Inglis.
I agree, Inspector, and say only that I followed an even greater duty. A duty to blood, to my father.
Your father? You never mentioned a father?
And from that, does the great detective deduce me to be fatherless?
You missed an appointment because of your father. What happened?
My father disappeared. I searched all night and failed to find him.
Does he live here in this house?
Yes.
Your servant said there was no one else in this house.
We don't speak of old Albert. He's old and tends to wander.
Oh, tends to wander. You miss an appointment because your father tends to wander? When your deputy Tuck is unequal to the task?
What?
Yes. He couldn't do it. The execution was postponed.
My God! Damn his hide! I told the sheriff Tuck was an incompetent.
Still, you absented yourself. You knew full well that Tuck couldn't do it. Even your servant heard you say so. You call that duty? Duty to whom?
Good day, Inspector.
Yeah.
Morning newspapers. Was there a mention of a body found near the docks?
No, sir.
He has escaped!
Huh?
Clemens has escaped! The first telegram! Now the pins! Where you go, Inspector? I'm a pick for you! Oh, leave for guts!
He was standing here. Like this. Counting them burning black bloodsuckers.
He wasn't a ghost, you idiot.
But he just been stretched, sir.
Get out! Bloody fool!
How did Clemens escape?
When the execution was postponed, that guard was sent here to conduct him to another cell. He took him for a ghost and ran, leaving the door unlocked.
Then what?
Clemens walked out, found Tuck still sniveling in the execution chamber, seized him and Inglis's valise, and posing as the hangman, strode out the prison gates.
But didn't anyone challenge him?
The 8 o'clock death bell had tolled. His coat was similar to Inglis's, and he was with the assistant hangman, Tuck.
Clemens has excelled himself this time.
It was reported to me that Inglis broke regulations and showed himself to Clemens yesterday. Was that your suggestion, Inspector?
I was here when English showed himself to Clemens. The exchange between them was strange and mysterious. As if there was some diabolic bond between them.
Strange, maybe, but mysterious no longer. They were plotting to cheat the gallows. If Inglis had not been absent, Clemens would now be in the ground. Inglis is your man.
Tuck could have hanged him.
And the sheriff should have hanged him. Tuck was an accomplice, known to be a sniveler and thus unsuspected when he bungled.
Has Tuck been seen since the escape?
Nearly a sniff. It was well planned, I tell you.
The exchange between Inglis and Clemens intrigues me. They're like both in their pride and pursuit of excellence. They never have a man like Tuck as an accomplice. Perhaps as a dupe. Ezekiel Tuck is the key. I must find him. I want this case. It's too good to waste on Regan. Inspector Regan, you could at least help me by arresting Tuck, the assistant hangman.
On what charge? Bad craftsmanship?
The circumstances of this...
I have looked into this matter. That's all he's guilty of. Likewise, the hangman Inglis. He was merely absent from a job of work, no more no less. One circumstance alone concerns you. Clemens is free.
A fugitive from justice does not concern you?
Not when that fugitive has left the city. I'm satisfied he has. I suggest you pack your grips on Godspeed.
You're no longer interested.
Precisely. Clemens is your responsibility, wherever he may be.
Wherever he may be?
Wherever he may be.
Thank you, Inspector.
Wait. And you'll be told. Wait, and you'll be told. And you'll be told. Leave off! You don't know what these hands are capable of. Go ask the sheriff about Ezekiel Tuck. Wait. Mr. Tuck, ain't it? You've heard of me?
The poet. And bungler.
Bungler?
Bungler, I say.
What?
Hear this. My brother, sit and think. While yet on earth some hours are left to thee, kneel to thy God who does not from thee shrink, and lay thy sins on Christ who died for thee. The song of the hemp, that is poetry, and it was penned by a real hangman. Bungler, you lack the heart for hanging and poetry both. Get away from me! Hey! He's mine!
You? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I don't care.
Hold yourself together. Mr. Clemens, where did you leave him?
The station.
He took a train. Did you see him board?
He was buying a ticket. He sent me for a newspaper. I came back. He's gone. Train's gone. I told Inspector Regan.
What did he say? Do you remember?
Write a letter to newspaper.
Did you hear him say where he was going?
He said something strange. Going to something softer than hemp around my neck.
Softer than hemp around the neck. Get home. I want you sharp in the morning for questioning, huh? Go on. Get on, get home.
Hello.
I'm looking for Renata. The German girl?
Oh, she ain't available. A man's been hanged today.
Yes, he asked me to give her his personal effects.
First, why were you skulking here this hour of night? In search of you, sir. Will you come home now? Be full attention. It had me fun. Another skulker. All is well, Mr. Reigns.
Even the chef here was impressed when I brought these into the kitchen.
You can't be a fishing man. The expedition was a great success. I'm going on one myself this evening. Would you care to come along?
This evening? What? Steering cart in the Dawn River?
Guarantee it'll be sporting.
Would it have anything to do with the Clemens case?
Just a wee bit of fishing. Not at my house at 6.
This is not my trout. It's not fresh. I tell you, this is not the fish I caught.
Oh, you were ice fishing yesterday?
Yes, it was yesterday. Waiter! Don't eat any more of that. It's evidence. Blasted charlatans.
How can you prove it's not yours?
I have not been a lifelong fisherman and pathologist for naught. The mark of an expert fisherman is unmistakable. Waiter! The heads. Get me the heads.
The fish heads, man.
Professionalism will out. Yes, and I could give you another example, Alistair, that even a detective can understand.
What do you mean by that?
In the past 4 months, I have examined 3 bodies, all found by the docks, all with their necks broken, all derelicts. Then, this morning, by the same wharf, a 4th was found,
neck broken, looked like a derelict, but this one had a name. An interesting name. Tuck, I believe.
Ezekiel? Drunken witness, the assistant hangman.
Ah, that's it. Clean break of the second and third vertebrae.
You agree, Mr. Inglis?
No sign of strangulation, no outward mutilation.
What do you think was the cause of death, Dr. Chisholm?
Mr. Tuck met a painless death by the long drop.
You seem impressed.
The drop was precisely calculated and professionally administered. It was not the work of an amateur.
What was it then, Mr. Inglis?
It is the work of a practiced hand.
Practice and 3 others, all derelicts. And like Tuck, all found beside the same wharf.
Clemens?
He could not do this.
He wouldn't do this.
Only 2 men have the experience and skill. The British executioner Jack Berry and I alone in Canada.
What did I tell you, Alistair? Professionalism will out.
Could it have been an American?
They use the short drop, not the long.
Well, what difference would that make?
Short drop is a standard 5 feet and not long enough to break the neck. Death is by strangulation and takes 12 minutes or more. All hanging was such torture until some 20 years ago when the long drop was introduced. It varies in length according to each client's weight, achieving dislocation of the neck and an instantaneous, merciful death.
Like Ezekiel Tuck.
Still in my jurisdiction, Inspector Cameron. I see you found your Mr. Tuck. I trust you're here to examine him only in the matter of Mr. Aaron Clements. He himself is my case.
Have you no respect, sir?
You, a hangman, teach me respect? Inglis. Mr. Inglis, keep yourself available. I shall have need of your help in this case. I'll soon teach him respect. Any new discoveries, Doctor?
Dr. Chisholm, do you think it would be illuminating for Inspector Regan to hear about your trout?
Trouts? At lunch today, I disputed that the fish served were caught by me. But when I examined the fish heads closely, I saw that they were in fact fly-hooked by an expert. Thus, I had no proof they were not mine.
Professionalism is uniform and leaves no individual mark. Someone is hanged by a professional.
Oh! And Inglis cannot prove it was not his work.
But can you prove it is?
Ah, that's the question, Inspector. I couldn't prove who caught the fish, only that it was an expert.
Oh, damn it, this is no fish.
Indeed.
What about our expedition, Alistair?
Put on your evening dress and meet me at my house.
Evening?
I'll be there shortly. Go on.
I'm not an angling man, but I do know this. Inglis had motive to daring Tuck.
What motive?
Professional disgrace. He's a proud one. Why, I don't know. And Tuck bungled the hanging.
Ah, impressive, Inspector. But why would Inglis kill Tuck for bungling the hanging, when Inglis himself helped Clements to escape the noose?
You still believe that Inglis caused the escape?
Well, don't know that he didn't. Neither do you. Ah, but if Tuck was an accomplice, and Inglis heard that I was going to question him this morning...
He strung him up to shut his mouth.
Ah.
Motive and means. That's it.
What about the 3 derelicts?
Oh, someone else did them, and Inglis is just slyly capitalizing.
Who? We know it had to be a hangman. We need 2 hangmen, and we've only got 1.
This is not your case, Inspector. Clements is yours. This is mine. Bad luck you didn't find Tuck a little earlier.
Oh, I talked to him last night.
Oh. Then he must have told you that he saw Clements off at the station.
I did.
What else did he tell you?
He told me a good place for fishing.
Fishing?
Inspector, the criminal Clemens wrote a to the editor letter.
My dear sir, it is often lamented that because of its raw youth as a country, Canada lacks tradition. I trust that the public will appreciate my personal efforts to repair this sad condition. I have now treated 2 generations of hangmen, old Albert and young Albert Inglis. If there is a third generation of English serving on the scaffold, you may rest assured that I will do all in my power to continue this tradition. Patriotically yours, Aaron Clemens, Esquire.
He's literate.
The man that you play chess with.
2 generations of hangmen.
The man I serve my sandwiches to with my naked hands.
You didn't know?
A hangman.
Well, of course, it was before your time here. Old Albert Inglis used to be the executioner. Young Albert was his assistant. It's hereditary. Years ago, old Albert disappeared after a scandal. He hasn't been seen or heard of since.
I've heard of him.
Wait a minute. What about our expedition?
Now, go to this address and keep an eye on it. I'll see you there when it gets dark.
90 Sumac Street?
English. You were in the tavern with Ezekiel Tuck.
Sir, Mr. Inglis is not like stranger conversing with the old master.
Sir Inglis at home?
Yes, sir. This way, sir.
8 years ago, I was old Albert's assistant then. We were engaged in Hamilton. The client was a woman. The cells there had no Judas holes, and old Albert could not view the client without being seen. The sheriff thought it would be indelicate for a woman to see her hangman and forbade the viewing. Thus, old Albert was able to calculate the drop only from the prison doctor's record of weight.
And?
It happened that the client was heavier than this record by some 60 pounds. As a result, the drop was far too long. She was decapitated. Well, you might shudder. It's a gruesome sight and the worst shame that can befall us. It became public knowledge. Scandal ensued. Old Albert was disgraced and vilified.
And so disappeared. And you've kept him here ever since?
I protect him from unjust scorn. I became executioner. But as a result of the scandal, my wife left me and took with her my only son, my natural apprentice.
You know, I saw old Albert in the shed just now.
He spends time there, recalling better days.
I saw him last night at the Rope and Anchor Tavern.
He frequents such places when he wanders.
Tell me, did he know Ezekiel Tuck?
No, he did not.
He was sitting with him in the tavern yesterday evening, Mr. Inglis.
A chance meeting. I would expect Ezekiel Tuck to be an habitué of such a place. Do you wonder now why I'm distraught when old Albert wanders?
You miss an execution because you're distraught at the company your father keeps? You miss that execution because you fear what I suspect. That when old Albert tends to wander, his mind wanders too, back to the days when he was an executioner. Inglis, you've just indicted him.
He would not murder.
Wouldn't he? The Rope and Anchor Tavern is near the wharf where Tuck was found dead this morning. And 3 others before him, all expertly hanged.
Cameron, wait. I cannot let old Albert suffer through my actions. I used his wandering as an excuse. I deliberately absented myself so that Clemens could escape.
You tried to make me wander away from my duty?
That day of the disgrace 8 years ago, there was a second client, Aaron Clemens. The same. He bribed the prison doctor to falsify the woman's weight. In return for my absence from his execution, Clemens promised to produce proof of the bribe.
Was Tuck your accomplice?
Bungling was a risk, a good risk.
Yes, I sensed a strange bond between you and Clemens. But I couldn't believe this if I didn't know his ways so well. Yeah, sounds like him. Yes, he feels people out and takes risks based on his judgment of them. First, he risked that Tuck would not be able to hang him. Second, that he could escape from the prison.
On my way, Boyle. Curious place for fishing, Cameron. Mr. Inglis, I'm here to arrest you for the unlawful killing of one Ezekiel Tuck, and in all probability, 3 others.
You have no proof.
I have motive and means.
Ah, based on an idle speculation of mine made at the morgue, the situation has changed.
Ask Mr. Inglis whether or not he was by the docks last night, in the vicinity of the wharf where Tuck was found. Constable, was this the man you saw?
Yes, sir.
Come on, Mr. Inglis. Sir.
I tell you, the situation has changed. Don't try to make a fool of me, Regan.
If that's what you're afraid of, stay with your country bumpkins.
Alistair, you might have told me I've been propositioned.
And I've been made a fool of. Is Fräulein Renata received it?
Turned away all callers.
In that case, she's sick. I'll attend you to Clemens.
Is Clemens in there?
Laid out snoring if he is. He told me she's such a favorite of his that he doesn't sleep until the second night. This is the second night of the escape. Time for a bit of fishing. Have you got the bait?
Oh, aye.
Oh, come on, man, all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if she bites and you get in, leave the door open. Keep her busy until I'm finished.
Me keep
well,
her busy?
I'll call you. Go. Oh.
Alistair,
Go on.
Oh, yeah, you are a gentleman, yeah?
Clemens. The house is surrounded. Your snoring gave you away. Sweet Renata.
I thought I'd be dead by now.
Come on, Clemens. Inglis has confessed.
Confessed? To what? Hanging people?
8 years ago, you bribed a prison doctor to falsify a condemned woman's weight. That led to her decapitation, old Albert's disgrace, a prison riot, and your first escape from the gallows. Inglis agreed to absent himself from this present execution in return for your confession.
It does sound worthy of me, no doubt that's why you fell for it. You've been had, Cameron. You've been had. There was no bribe. He was no doctor, what prison doctor is. He was a drunkard and himself a sometime hangman. He couldn't do the long drop, was envious of old Albert's skill, so he falsified the records to discredit him. No, my escape was a chance and seized opportunity like most escapes, and a little wit. Why would Inglis tell you this?
Perhaps to stop me arresting his father. It's just possible that I've been made a fool of twice today. No more. Get on your coat quickly. I want your help.
What?
there is some danger. But if we succeed, and you're telling the truth, I'll put in a good word for you. Don't look so doubtful. What have we got to lose, man? Huh? Stop here. I have some urgent business at the Justice Department concerning Mr. English release. Would you keep this prisoner in the shed until the jail wagon comes? Quick, March.
Climb in the window. I've seen him before.
It's him. Clemens. The famous Mr. Aaron Clemens. I viewed him 8 years ago. I never forget a client. Weight's about the same. The neck is thicker with age, but softer. Bone more brittle. Jonas, a dram.
You have a sporting chance. Remember our bargain, Clemens.
Client waiting. Young Albert and me playing chess.
Would the old master like me to play?
You.
Sir, I've done for already. Let me hang him. Then the master can check and be his apprentice.
I sure couldn't have caught Jonas without you, but I've kept my part of the bargain. I put in a word for you. More than one, a great many words. But you know the objections in your case. 2 escapes from the noose. 3. Why, 3. And everyone I've talked to has insisted that if reprieved, there's no prison could hold you to serve out your life sentence. Your story about the prison doctor is confirmed. And old Albert has been reinstated as the assistant hangman.
Cameron. My reprieve.
Your prisoner, sir.
A drop of 7 feet 4.5 inches, sir.
Precisely.